This is going to make a lot of people angry. Charlie Kirk extended an olive branch to Bill Maher on his latest podcast, and it seems like he's taking it, because this is the clearest that we've heard Bill solidify himself as the true progressive against the far left strand of the movement, and I think it's a sign of things to come. Take a look at this incredible exchange before I tell you how significant this is.
We have different jihadis that want to kill me. The purple-haired jihadis, the woke guys.
Well, they want to kill me just as bad.
Probably.
Oh, they really do.
No, you've been very outspoken on the woke stuff. Big time.
Oh, yes. I mean, and they, just the way within a religion, they hate their own apostates more. I would say they hate me more because I'm supposed to like get on the short bus to Crazy Town with them. And I won't. And yet I'm still a liberal and still like, you know, I mean, we probably could argue all day about Donald Trump and what he's doing, which I'm not down with. But, you know, it's always the people who are closest who think, oh, gosh, you shouldn't have, you're a traitor somehow.
I was going to ask, is it because they thought you were one of them and that...
I am one of them. They're not one of me. Okay. It's the liberals who have...
So they've left you, not you left.
Yeah, well,
I think that's
feel
fair.
like there's... Liberal and woke are two completely different things. It was the theme of my last stand-up special that I just did a few months ago. And it's basically... I mean, it wasn't the whole special, of course, but it was a large part of it devoted to that, to proving that case that, you know, what liberals believe, woke is something completely different. It's very often the opposite of it. You know, liberalism is, let's live in a colorblind society. That's the goal. Woke's goal is, we see race everywhere.
Race obsession.
Yes. Okay. So that's not liberal. You change. Liberal is, there are two-state solution. Woke is river to the sea, okay? So just don't take my word and say you're that. You took this and took it to, you got off the F train, you fell asleep, and you got off the 20 stops too far, and don't blame me for that.
And that's why Bill Maher has positioned himself very nicely with the new political realities of America. He was standing on the progressive center of the party long before even people like Gavin Newsom realized the only way to not lose election after election, well, it's to stop going further down the slippery slope to insanity on the far left today. Plus the fact Bill came out just this week to assert and reaffirm his impression of meeting Donald Trump despite massive backlash from many Democrats shows you that he's actually got a spine too. By the way, we break down the culture wars of our time like no one else, so please be sure to subscribe to Millionaire Mentor to join the conversation. Now imagine Bill Maher's surprise when one of his longest contemporaries in comedy, Larry David, came out with a crazy piece in the New York Times just this past week. It's titled My Dinner with Adolf, where he imagines himself as a comedian going to meet the German dictator in the 1930s, while drawing a not-so-subtle parallel to the nice things that Bill Maher said about Donald Trump. Have these obscene comparisons not been retired yet by the far left, even after seeing the dismal failure of this kind of messaging when it comes to the elections? And surprisingly enough, both Charlie and Bill here seem to agree that woke has almost become a new dogma with how some people respond to it.
To your credit, you treated woke like a religion.
Yes.
And you criticized them with the same intensity and ferocity you did, and you deserve a lot of credit for that.
Thank you.
No, I mean that because you looked at it as this has a catechism, it has religious type undercurrents, it has almost a metaphysical presence to itself, and so you're an equal opportunity critic.
I mean, yeah. And it's funny because the director of Religulous, Larry Charles, and I had dinner about a year ago, and I suggested, and of course it went nowhere because we're both too old to like really act on it, but I said, people keep asking me, and I'm sure him also, to do Religulous too, but when they say it, they think we're going to, now we're going to go to India and make fun of the Hindus. I'm like, I'm not doing that, okay? I'm not going to India, and the Hindus aren't that funny, okay? We did it. The movie did great, and we love that it stands the test of time, and people always keep coming up to me and seeing it. Movies are amazing that way. But I said, somebody gave me a great idea. Why don't we do Religulous too? But the religion is wokeness. And then that's what I was suggested. And I said, yeah, but then you're going to have to do the right side of it too, because that's also a religion.
Yeah, fair enough, but you have to agree that Christian nationalists on the right explicitly call themselves religious, while the far left just fills the void of religion with bad secular ideology. There's a subtle difference there, and it is important, and it's characterized by a degree of dogmatism with certain ideas and a vilifying of anyone that doesn't agree, which you didn't really see in genuinely progressive movements of the past century. And just like the word woke has morphed from a noble term during the civil rights fight, so has the word liberal changed in popular discourse. I'm sure Bill is irked by the shift, and I completely understand wanting to reclaim that word and what it stands for, because otherwise he'd have no term that captures what his ideas truly are.
Here's how I would frame it. You going to meet with Trump would be the equivalent of Biden inviting me over for dinner. Meaning, is that fair?
Absolutely.
Okay, I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Absolutely.
Why do you think Biden or Obama wouldn't do that and Trump did?
I mentioned that too in the thing. I said, you know what?
You did. But
I said, because look, this was kind of a guy's dinner. And Donald Trump is a man of a certain age, of a certain way of life. I just think he's comfortable with the guys. And I also think he loves his wife more than is let on. But he just likes being with the guys. And it was a guy's dinner, and we just had a good guy's time. And so, I said it, I voted for Obama, I voted for Clinton, but the idea that I could talk to them as freely as I felt this conversation was going is emblematic to me of why the Democrats lose the elections. Because they just don't feel that this is like a real person. And I know it's so weird to say that about Donald Trump, who I've said a jillion times is, a whiny little. I mean, I could go through my greatest hits of insults, but this was about getting past that and maybe seeing that if we met in person, we don't hate each other as much, and we don't. And I'm sorry, I'm not gonna pretend that's a bad thing.
Forget meeting a comedian that has said some bad things about you. There was hardly anyone at the top of the Democratic ticket this past election even willing to engage with people in that capacity or go have long-form conversation in a setting like this. And that failure of messaging has persisted for the Democrats at least since Obama stepped to the side in 2016, which resulted in people like Bill Maher, who used to be great messengers for the left, to just zone out. If your party and political movement is alienating cultural figures like Bill Maher and Joe Rogan, they will eventually be courted slowly toward the other side. And while this meeting may be a start of that, what should be more surprising to Bill is the absolute backlash he's getting from his own peers. That's despite the fact that Bill still has some of the strongest critiques of the Trump administration from a policy standpoint, especially on mass deportations, which somehow doesn't seem to factor for his detractors.
Look, but to be fair to the whole, topic in general, the outrage around deportations, as we've seen, these last couple of weeks, is the American people voted for it. It's perfectly legal.
Well, they didn't vote for.
They did vote for mass deportations.
People without any. I mean,
So you mean that Maryland case is what you're talking about, right?
The guy who they said
MS-13 member.
Well, there's no evidence that he's. They did not present evidence. I mean, I don't really want to get into the weeds on this one because I got to do it on my show Friday, but the Supreme Court, I guess we have to get into the weeds.
There's even new evidence in the last couple of hours that you lead the conversation. You tell me how deep you want to go on it.
None.
Okay.
I mean, but I hope that if it comes to light, let me button it up this way. I hope that if it does come to light, that there really is no evidence that this guy was a gang member, that he got swept up, which is very understandable, that when you do a sweep, when you're doing big things, yes, nothing is going to go perfect. But if it does come to light, I would hope that some Republicans have the spine to say, yeah, that's not right.
I agree, though of course there are nuances with that particular case with Abrigo Garcia, since he's not a citizen or a legal migrant, but that's a whole separate conversation. I think it's important that Bill Maher understands the degree of leverage and credibility he now has on both sides of the aisle, enough to serve as a conversational bridge, and I hope he uses that position for the greater good of the country rather than some political party, but let me know in the comments if you agree, because so far, it's been more encouraging trends over the past few weeks.